The weather has been absolutely beautiful here in Kentucky this past week. The temperatures have been wonderful. The leaves are starting to change colors, and it's just been glorious. We've been getting outside and enjoying it together as a family, and we took a fun little camping trip this past weekend, but we're back in the kitchen now creating some from scratch meals. This is my most favorite probably meal to cook. I love a really good juicy pot roast. So come into the kitchen with me and we'll get started. I decided to pressure cook my pot roast, and that's my most favorite way to cook it. I threw some root vegetables in, some onion and carrots, and pressure cooked mine for about an hour and a half in my Instant Pot. And you cannot beat a juicy fall apart roast this time of year. I learned a long time ago to sear my pot roast on each side because it helps to lock in those juices and add in a lot of really good flavor. So I season my pot roast on both sides, and then I sear it in the Instant Pot before I add a little water and go ahead and pressure cook it. One of the things I love so much about the Instant Pot is that you can turn on the saute function and go ahead and sear your pot roast on both sides, and you don't have to dirty up a cast iron skillet or dirty up another skillet before you can add it into the Instant Pot. It already has that function programmed into it, so that is so nice. Not having to wash even more dishes, but I like to get a good sear, just a couple minutes on each side before I add in my vegetables and water and go ahead and start to pressure cook it. I wanted to make a homemade sweet potato casserole to go along with this delicious pot roast. We love sweet potatoes, and I figured that this would be a really great recipe to go ahead and share with you all since Thanksgiving is coming up. So I just was washing and chopping my sweet potatoes so that I could boil them and then mash them to mix them and prepare them for the casserole. I love to add in cinnamon, nutmeg, and cloves, and then some granulated sugar into my sweet potato casserole. And I also love to add in either pecans or walnuts. I had walnuts on hand this evening, and so that is what I chose to add into my sweet potato casserole. And then I topped it off with some marshmallows, and there's just something about the combination of the spices and the sweet potato that makes me feel like I'm in fall and enjoying the season so much. So I just love making this casserole, and I plan on sharing this with you all on the blog, so you can find the link to the blog below in the description of this video, or you can go to www.thebluegrassfamily.com, and all of the recipes that are in the videos will be posted to the blog. I am moving on to the homemade yeast rolls for this dinner recipe, and this is the same recipe that I use for the yeast bread. The only difference is whenever I go to actually put the yeast bread into a different pan, I used a cast iron skillet and I cut them into squares, and so they make kind of these really big triangular sort of pull apart yeast rolls, which are really delicious, and I top them with a honey butter sauce that I make, and it was so yummy. This recipe is actually already up on the blog if you are wanting to go ahead and make some of your own yeast bread or make some of your own yeast bread rolls. The only difference is that instead of shaping them into loaves, you're going to shape them into rolls, and then you're going to add an egg wash to the top before you bake them, and then you're going to bake them for 25 to 30 minutes versus the time that you bake the actual bread loaves. So if you want to get a head start on that, you can go ahead and start making some of your own homemade yeast rolls and practice a little bit before Thanksgiving. I like to melt a little butter into my large cast iron skillet before I add in these yeast rolls, just to give them a really good crunchy outer layer. There's just something about that buttery, delicious outer layer that makes them taste so good. And they're so simple to make. They're really not hard at all. If you watch this video and go do it, you absolutely can accomplish making these yeast rolls. I used to be so intimidated about trying new things when it came to recipes, but don't let your intimidation or fear stop you from trying. Even if you make a mistake while cooking, you can always learn from it, and you can have some experience under your belt of trying new things. So don't be afraid to try new things in the kitchen. Cranberry sauce is something that I don't make super often, but I really do love it. I had these cranberries already frozen, and I added in a mandarin orange with the peel and everything, and I added in some water and brought it to a boil. And then I went ahead and added in some spices like cinnamon, nutmeg, and cloves, and just let that all simmer together and blend together. And then I pulled out the orange peel and I took it off the stovetop and added in a little bit of granulated sugar. While it was still on the stovetop, I did go ahead and add in some honey and some sorghum. I kind of just didn't really follow a recipe. I just added in what flavors that I typically like, and I always like those spices. I think the orange gives it a good flavor. Obviously any kind of sweetener, because cranberries can be very tart, so the sorghum, the honey, the sugar, all of that made it taste really well. And once I had boiled it and simmered it on the stovetop, I took it off and let it cool for a minute, and then I went ahead and used my immersion blender and blended it all up to be kind of more of a sauce, so it wasn't so thick. So I really liked how it turned out. Like I said, I just kind of trial and errored and kind of figured out what I wanted and tasted it, and then reassessed it and went and did that sort of thing whenever I was making it. And that's really the only way that I've found that I can make a really good cranberry sauce, is to just taste and go and add things as I'm cooking it. We have pulled all of these delicious recipes into one family meal from scratch, and this time of year, these are the types of meals that I love to create for my family. So I hope you all can take these recipes, jot them down, try them out before Thanksgiving, and make them for your own family. I'm so happy you all have been here with us today, and have a wonderful week ahead.